There are a few different components of source credibility, and those are expertise, trustworthiness, attractiveness. We'll talk about this a little bit more in just a moment, and similarity. We'll also talk a little bit more about this. Something that's noteworthy here, let me go back up actually. So these four things, if you're listening to someone give a speech, for example, you'll probably note good speakers try to lean into all of these components of source credibility. They identify their expertise about what they're talking about. They try to frame their character as trustworthy so that you'll listen to what they're saying. They'll be professional in terms of their appearance. You wouldn't necessarily be persuaded by someone who shows up to give a speech in their pajamas, right? And they'll try to relate to their audience. So again, we'll go into more of this in just a moment, but there's this thing called the sleeper effect, and the sleeper effect happens when we see something or we hear something and it sticks in our minds, but then we forget who said it, but we still have that existing knowledge. And this can be problematic too, because we don't remember who said it. The source credibility loses influence over time. That means that we cannot provide evidence for those things that we remember. The classic case for this is, and one of the videos that you watched previously was about anti-vaccination campaigns and the belief by some that children's vaccines cause autism, even though the scientific community has established that autism is formed in utero, meaning like before people are born, and therefore before people receive vaccines. But there was a specific article that came out a long, long time ago, and nobody remembers who wrote it, that has then been since debunked, but people still remember that message of vaccines are harmful, they cause autism, etc. Even though it's been debunked, that information still exists. That's a great example of the sleeper effect, where source credibility loses influence over time. Nobody remembers that that author, right, or speaker, but they remember the information that they heard. Okay, so going back to the components of source credibility, there's attractiveness, which is where more physically attractive communicators are often perceived as more persuasive, and your audience is more likely to pay attention. Attractiveness becomes associated with the message. So a good example of this is, well, I don't have. I'll give you an example in just a moment when we talk about the first presidential debate aired on TV. And then people like and identify more so with attractive speakers. And this is not like, oh, you're pretty or whatever it is. It's the ability to be confident in a speaking situation, or this is why a lot of, and again, we'll get to this in a minute, but young adult speakers, young adult confident speakers are generally viewed as more persuasive speakers because of this attractiveness component. And that's sometimes a problem. Well, it is a problem, right? Because that's leaning into some social cues that aren't necessarily beneficial. So we're not going to watch this video, but I encourage you to watch it. It's in your PowerPoint slides that you can access outside of this lecture recording. This video goes into the debate, the first aired television debate, presidential debate between Kennedy and Nixon. And Kennedy was younger, and he also wore makeup for this televised debate. And Nixon was a little bit older and maybe less approachable, looked less approachable, acted less approachable, and refused makeup for this first aired presidential debate. And many critics say that or many media scholars would say that people who listened to the debate on the radio and could not see either candidate said that Nixon won the debate, while people who viewed the debate via television said that Kennedy won the debate. And this is really where we started to see this component of attractiveness as a speaker come into play with television, hence mediated communication. Now, similarity is the second component that we briefly discussed. Speakers who share values and perspectives with audience members are more convincing to those audience members. You can think about political speakers here as well. If you're a Democrat listening to a Republican speaker, you're less likely to be persuaded by that speaker comparatively to a Democrat a Democrat speaker if you're also a Democrat, and vice versa. So more positive and emotions and thoughts about the speaker with more similarity to the audience. And then also this prompts comparison between the communicator and the audience. They're like me, I'm like them, therefore I should do what they're saying to do. If they support this, I should support this. If they support research into climate change, then I should support that too. So another area that we'll talk about, I'm gonna stop this video because I think we're probably at about the 5-minute mark that I want to keep it at. And I'll start back with good persuasive arguments.